Welcome to God's Abundance Unveiled, the podcast where we dive deep into the raw, real stories of faith and abundance. I'm your host, Ezra Kane, and today, we're exploring the theme of resilience through adversity. You know, life has a way of throwing curveballs at us, but it's how we respond that defines our journey. Let me share a story from my own life that illustrates this. A few years ago, I was at a low point. I had lost my job, my relationship was falling apart, and I felt like I was drowning in debt. I remember sitting in my car, parked outside a church, tears streaming down my face, questioning if God had abandoned me. But then, something shifted. I recalled the story of Job from the Bible, how he faced unimaginable loss yet remained faithful. It hit me that maybe, just maybe, this was a test of my faith too. I decided to lean into my faith, to trust that there was a bigger plan at play. Slowly but surely, things started to turn around. I found a new job, mended my relationship, and even started this podcast as a way to share stories of hope and abundance. It's amazing how when we surrender to faith, abundance follows. So as I was saying, my journey through that dark period taught me a lot about resilience. But it wasn't just about bouncing back. It was about growing through the pain. I think of the verse from Romans 5:3-4. We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. That hope is what carried me through. I want to introduce you to someone who embodies this spirit of resilience. Her name is Julie Jancius, and she's been through her own version of hell and back, yet she always comes out with a smile. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ezra. It's an honor to be here.
Julie, can you tell our listeners a bit about your background and what led you to where you are today?
Absolutely. My journey began in 2015 when my father passed away. It was a sudden and devastating loss. But shortly after, I started experiencing something extraordinary. I began hearing my intuition and seeing visions. It was as if my father was communicating with me from the other side. This experience shook me to my core and set me on a path of spiritual awakening. I left my corporate job to study with healers and spiritual teachers, and now I help others connect with their angels and loved ones who have passed. It's been a wild ride, full of ups and downs, but through it all, I've learned to trust in the divine plan.
Julie, that's incredible. Can you share more about that moment when you first heard your intuition after your father's passing? What was that like?
It was surreal. I was driving home from work, and suddenly, I felt this overwhelming presence. Then I heard a voice, clear as day, saying, "Your father has passed." I didn't understand it at first, but when I got home, I received the call confirming his death. From that moment on, I started seeing visions and receiving messages that guided me through my grief.
That must have been both comforting and terrifying. How did you make sense of it all?
It was a process. I questioned my sanity at first, but the messages were so specific and accurate that I couldn't deny them. I realized that this was a gift, a way to connect with the divine and help others do the same. It was like Romans 8:28 come to life. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose.
That's a powerful verse. It seems like your experience really embodies that idea of God working through even the toughest situations. Julie, how has your faith played a role in your journey, especially in terms of abundance?
Faith has been my anchor. When I lost my father, I could have easily spiraled into despair. But instead, I chose to believe that there was a greater purpose, that faith opened doors for me, spiritually, emotionally, and even financially. I started my own business, wrote books, and now I get to help people every day. Abundance isn't just about money, it's about living a life full of purpose and joy.
I love that perspective. It's so aligned with what we talk about here on God's Abundance Unveiled. Abundance is multifaceted, and faith is the key that unlocks it all.
Exactly. And it's available to everyone, no matter where they are in their journey.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's been incredibly inspiring. To our listeners, I hope Julie's journey reminds you that no matter what you're going through, there's always hope on the other side. Lean into your faith and watch how abundance unfolds in your life. Before we wrap up, I want to encourage you all to subscribe to the God's Abundance channel on YouTube. It's a treasure trove of content that will help you grow in faith and abundance. And stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll be discussing how to cultivate gratitude in everyday life. Until next time, this is Ezra Kane, signing off. Remember, abundance is your birthright. Claim it